Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Three Questions by Corey Kareem, the podcast where we sit down with some amazing people who are doing some amazing things. And that's right, you guessed it. We asked them three questions, sometimes four, sometimes five. But today, rather than, as you guys know, rather than focus on their successes or wins, we're going to talk about their failures. More specifically, the lessons that they learn from those individual experiences. So, with that being said, my guest today is a certified intimacy coach and life coach. She's also a professional speaker, and she's the founder of Savage Desires. I feel like I had to say it just like that. Donna Savage, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great, and thanks for having me.
Awesome, awesome. So before we get into the three questions, actually four to be upfront with everybody listening, um, why don't you tell my listeners how you guys started, your inspiration for what you do, and what Savage Desire, what that actually does for your clients that are out there.
Okay, so how I got started, I started the sensuality business, which Savage Desires is after divorce.
Mm.
Yeah, after divorce. It's as if you get a second wind that comes in, you just get all of a sudden you get creative.
I feel that's
Um,
where all the motivation comes
listen,
from. Because you know what, not to cut you off, but
no.
I've seen, so there was a coworker I used to work with, and she was in her 50s. But
Hmm.
I tell you, Donna, she was in the most incredible shape. She beat out all the women my age, younger. And I was like, I bet you she's. And sure enough, that was it. And I was like, it's like that change. So, anyways, to your point.
No. It's okay because it's true though. Like we get a second wind and
Mm,
realize, you know what? This second part of our life is not going to go down like the first time.
mm,
So it's as if we press on the gas and we just keep going. And a lot of times we have to reinvent ourselves. And in
mhm,
this case, I did. So Savage Desires started out as just selling sex toys. That's all.
mm,
That's all it started up in is just selling
mhm.
sex toys, because at that time in my journey, as a woman, never had have an orgasm, was introduced to the toy, and I'm
Wow.
thinking, okay, obviously after meeting friends, because at that point in my life didn't know a lot of people. It was just
Mhm,
about family. Start talking to women and they were having the same issue. So I said, okay, let me
mhm,
jump into that market, selling sex toys.
mhm,
And so my slogan at that time was guarantee a smile, right?
mm,
But to be honest, getting into that business, I realized it wasn't just about the sex toys.
mm.
It went way that, and that's how Savage Desire started,
Okay.
doing the sex toys, but then it went way deeper than that when we realized that was just this is a footprint in the sand.
Right, right,
It was just touching surface with the sex toys, and then it elevated and turned even to a bigger thing on wellness,
mhm,
and health and
right,
sexuality.
right, right. That's
Hmm.
amazing. I love it.
Hmm.
I love it. I just thought of another question, but I'm gonna park it for now. But let's get into this. So,
Hmm.
as a certified NLP, neuro
Who's
linguistics
the practitioner?
practitioner, there you go,
Hmm.
life and sensuality coach. What has
Hmm.
been your biggest failure to date, and why was it your biggest failure? And ultimately, how did you get through it and over it?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about my failures first and then go
Mhm.
forward in terms of how I became an NLP coach.
Awesome.
Okay,
Let's
so
go
for
for it.
me, yeah, so for myself, never had counseling. And
Mm,
I thought, second wind, thinking this is going to be fine because I'm fine. I've forgiven everybody.
mm,
I'm burned all hats, looking after the kids and the whole thing.
right.
Somebody asked me about my ex-husband, and then she said, have you forgiven him? I said, oh, yeah, I've forgiven him. And I start crying because
Mm,
memories pop up. And it's like, but I forgave him. So why am I crying? She said, Donna, because you haven't. So in doing a
mm,
bunch of research, a friend of mine had gone to see an NLP coach and he recommended it. Didn't even know what an NLP coach was. And I went to the
mm,
session and I did the session. The first time when I said, I don't even know why I'm here because I'm fine. And this beautiful soul just dropped some nuggets and some questions on me that went
mm,
deep, Corey, went deep.
mm,
And I couldn't stop crying. And by the time she was done, and all the stuff that she dug up and all the unpacking, is as if a weight fell off. And that's one of the reasons why I said, you know what, this work, but it
right.
only work if you're ready to work and to
Of
face the
course.
fear. And
Of
that's how I
course.
started it because I was ready.
Right.
You know,
Right.
because a lot of persons are saying, I am ready, but in reality, they are not, because then they have to go back to
Right.
come forward.
And they got to do the work.
They have to do the
And it's
work. And
not
I'm telling
easy.
you, no. And I was telling her, even growing up, certain part of my life I don't remember because I was so in my head and everything. And going through that process, it dig up some stuff. And I'm thinking it
Mm-hmm.
made sense why I chose going left versus right. So
Mm-hmm.
that definitely was a failure for me. And just to go back and to recognize that, I don't have to be in that dark place,
Mm.
and so even before I got into this business, I'm a certified accountant.
Right.
So from being an accountant
Wow. Big switch.
to talk about sexuality and wellness is like
Yeah.
it's a huge switch,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And so as a coach, what would you say has been your biggest struggle to date, and how did you ultimately get over that hump?
the the biggest struggle is when I have my clients who has gone through so much trauma, especially
Mhm.
sexual trauma and abuse, because it also hit nuggets for me in some part. So it's
Right.
as if I'm reliving that
Wow.
past,
Okay.
right?
I get it.
So that alone, and when you're asking these questions for your client and they don't want to talk about it, and as a woman to woman,
Mhm.
you're trying to
Mhm.
be very professional,
Right.
but then sometimes it's like it hits you to a core that we have to gain momentum and
Right.
give them reassurance, because as I said earlier on, they have to go back in order to come forward and to
Right.
unpack and to make them realize that I am not my past, or whatever happened to my past does not reflect who I am today.
Right.
So those for me is to talk into the and if you're in that place of darkness,
Mhm.
Corey, and you're trying to convince this person or let them rethink or reframe the question to make them realize what happened to them then and now is so totally different, it's going to be hard work, especially if they're not ready.
Right. Right.
Because as much as persons come to counseling, they come because somebody recommended them to come, but they
Right.
didn't come on their own accord. So that's where the battle is.
Right. Right. And so ultimately, when you are resurfacing these issues that also trigger your past
Hmm.
situation, what did you do in those moments to kind of get over it and get through it?
So right now, where I am at my part right now, it
Mhm.
doesn't trigger me anymore because I've
Mhm.
done the work.
Mhm.
you know but what it does for me is to let them know, listen, I'm a product of the past.
Right.
I had your journey. So it's good when you have a client who you're aligning yourself with, and they realize, okay, if Donna did it, then why can't I?
Right. Right.
So this is where I know I follow a lot of persons like yourself too. We're talking
Mhm.
about stories, because stories is what heal. We
Right.
start telling the story, we start regurgitating, and that's the process of healing.
Right. Right. And you know what? What you said really rings bells to me, because I remember reading or hearing somewhere, and what was said was sometimes you don't have to hear something new, you just have to hear that somebody else went through it.
Yeah,
Right. We don't necessarily need new information, new data. We just need to know that others are going through it as well. And that's
exactly.
enough to kind of at least to
Give you
get us to
hope.
take us the
Hmm.
first step. Yeah, absolutely. No, and thank you for sharing that. And so, what would you say, from your experience with your clients, are the most common challenges you hear about, both when it comes to confidence? So that's
Hmm.
one piece. And then the other piece, when it comes to sensuality in their own relationships, what would you say are the biggest challenges that you've come about so far?
For sexuality, especially the West Indian. When I started the business, I thought it was a West Indian thing, to be honest, or a
Mhm.
Caribbean thing.
What
I
island? What
talk
island?
uh, Jamaican.
I knew it, but just in the odd case you were Trinidadian, I didn't want to seriously offend you, because I know how
You would
trigger
never offend me. Listen,
how triggered.
all I've dated ever since my marriage is all Trinidadian. So it's like, what the hell? Why am I supposed to be Trinidadian or something? So we're good.
Okay, awesome.
For sexuality, we have
Hmm.
been programmed from birth.
Hmm.
And the thing about it is about what sexuality is, or what
Hmm.
sex is, or intercourse is.
Hmm.
And it's not only coming from our parents, but it's coming from our parents. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with intergenerational stories. People said trauma, but
Hmm.
I flip
Hmm.
it to stories. So it's coming from a long lineage.
Right,
Right.
right,
So it's all embedded in us about sexuality and being free and embracing sexuality and sex as the
right,
norm.
right.
Right. Because I'm going to say something. So women still, as much as they're having sex,
Hmm.
they don't want to talk about it, and they're uncomfortable talking about it. Even if they're
Hmm.
in the bedroom,
Right,
at that intimate moment, they're very uncomfortable about it. They're not asking for what they're wanting.
Right.
Nearly 90% of women are not having penetrative orgasm. They're only having clitoral orgasm.
Right.
Why aren't they having penetrative orgasm? Because they get uncomfortable with
Right.
themselves. One of my clients says she doesn't like when she's not in control of
Mm,
herself because she may say or do
mm,
things that she doesn't want. Another
right.
woman are saying it's too nasty because it's messy and wet.
Hmm. Hmm.
So all this is all brainwash stuff. And
Right.
then especially if you have a partner who's not encouraging and loving and not comparing their partner to somebody else,
Oh,
that
but it's
again
a hard
is,
watch. Yeah.
that again is
Hmm.
like, and it just get heavier and heavier, and everywhere, especially when it comes to sexuality and sex with your
Right.
partner.
Right.
Because we have enough problem with our parents and our ancestors telling us that sex is only for procreation and not pleasure,
Right.
and then
Right.
and then everything else on top of that.
Right.
And
Right.
then you mentioned something about confidence. Confidence
Yeah.
is a thing that you practice every day.
Mm.
You become confident in practicing your craft every day. And that's what
Right.
confidence really mean. So
Right.
the more you practice your heart is the more confident you are.
No, and that makes sense because I heard there's an author by the name of Jim Quick. He has a book called why am I forgetting the name right now? It'll come back to me later. But in his book, he has something he calls it the confidence competent loop. He said the more you do things that you are competent in, the more confidence you
Confident you
gain.
become, yeah.
Right. So it's a
Mhm.
loop.
It
And then
is.
you can take that confidence to expand out into other things. And then you keep
E-
doing that thing, and then you become really confident in that thing. So
Exactly.
it all plays
Exactly.
into it. You really
Exactly.
it's each other.
Exactly.
Um, I want to pause right here because you mentioned Caribbean background, Jamaican specifically. Do you find that's an additional challenge when dealing with women within the community? I know you said earlier you thought it was specific to just the Caribbean, but obviously you found out no, it exists in many other communities as well. But is there I guess what I'm trying to ask here, is there anything specific to the Caribbean culture that makes it a huge block? I know you slightly mentioned religion or you alluded to it a bit, but is there anything else that puts a block from women within the Caribbean culture or community?
Yeah, the number one level, of course, is religion.
Uh-huh.
Number two is anger.
What do you mean? Unpack that.
We're angry. Some women are just angry.
Mm.
We may say one thing and it triggers for whatever reason. Like we have
Right,
so many things that triggers us and we have no idea
right,
why.
right,
You know what I mean? We can just say, let's use a word. You're beautiful.
right.
No, I'm not.
I
You know
feel
what I
like I
mean?
heard that. Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's true though,
yeah.
because as women, humans. Let's talk
Right.
about. Let's be broad. As
Okay.
human, we were brought up to always giving other persons compliment and always giving. But
Right.
we don't know how to receive. So
How
I'm
to
gonna
catch
say,
it
oh my God,
receiving.
you're beautiful.
Right.
No, I'm not. You are. All we need to simply say is thank you. And then, of course, that I'm going to say, yes, you are. And then the argument probably is going to start. Because I'm telling you, I myself, as a woman, have spoken to other women, just, nicely, and they would just flare up. The person that I am, I'm just going to smile and say, it's okay. We're fine.
Right.
Because people, for whatever reason, so this is where I am. I'm non-judgmental. When I say I'm non-judgmental, I am.
Right.
Because any word or any action can flare people out. Let's flare
Right.
them up and they have no idea, or trigger them and they have no idea why it triggers them.
Right. Right. No, and I think that's so common, especially in today's world where everyone is trying to be conscious of not stepping on anyone's toes, so to speak, or not triggering anybody. You've used that word a few times here, but I also find that very difficult to do when you're trying to have an honest and truthful conversation. Like, how do you broach those discussions if you always got to worry about stepping on someone's toes or offending them?
Okay, so it's communication. We have different way of communication skills,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So first and foremost, we have to be very gentle with our words. We cannot be if we're having a conversation, it can be an accusative kind of conversation. We have to be gentle with our words. And
Right.
the second thing is, when we are having this conversation, we have to make sure that they're comprehending. Because having a conversation and comprehending is two different things,
Right.
right? So then we won't be able to talk to someone if they always have their back up,
Right.
waiting for you to say the wrong thing. So
So
that's why
body
I'm saying you
language.
have to
Okay.
be gentle with your
Right.
delivery, gentle with your words. Be if
Right.
especially if you're dealing with somebody that you've known forever,
Right.
then you have to learn how to communicate with them or how to speak to them and
Right.
try to avoid certain trigger.
Right. And so what I'm taking note here is there's two things. There's a common thing that's coming up here, and it's communication. Both you mentioned with women communicating to their partners how they like certain things. There's a lack thereof, hence why they're not being pleased to their level or degree. And then in terms of having these difficult conversations with another person, is paying attention to their body language, what is
Mhm.
communicating in the moment, and just understanding their communication style altogether. Okay.
So I'm gonna step back for 1 second. In
Mhm.
terms of women telling their partner what they want.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true to every degree, but also women have to take responsibility as well.
What does that
So
mean?
I teach, so women have to, the way I look at it, the men are not responsible for women's orgasm. Women are responsible for their orgasm. Men help, and it is what it is. No, it is true because
Mm.
if you don't know, in some of my workshop, we talk about, let's say, energetic orgasm
Okay.
or getting to know your body.
Right.
It's a trigger for a lot of persons because some women will say, no, I don't like playing with my breasts. Some people, I
Right.
don't like playing with, you know what I mean? So, but people have to understand that it's not only your breast or your vagina that's going to make you have an orgasm.
Right.
Every part of your body will offer that to have
Right.
for you to have an orgasm or to
Right.
just bring pleasure to yourself. Do you not have to necessarily be playing with your vagina or your breast, which people
Right.
think those are the biggest organs to have an orgasm, and not
Right.
realizing every part of your body is orgasmic because we're energetic.
Right.
And when we talk about this, women are thinking it's men responsible to know it's yours. We have to know which part of our body turns us on, turns us on. We
Right.
have to understand what our body can do.
Mhm.
Because in talking to women, they're talking, most women get clitoral orgasm. And
Mhm.
clitoral orgasm is just clitoral orgasm. It's a quick snap and it's done.
Right.
You know, true, authentic, true internal orgasm, it lasts longer than a quick up and down. Clit
Right.
orgasm, you get an orgasm, it goes up and
It's
drop.
transactional.
It's
Right.
just that's it.
Right.
That's it. And then your clit probably will get a little bit sore and a little bit tender, so you
Right.
can't go on anymore. If you get energetic
Right.
orgasm or penetrative orgasm, then
Right.
it's a different flow.
Right. 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 And
You know.
so, for my listeners, and even for myself, can you really break down energetic orgasm? Like, what is that exactly?
So energetic, as I said, we're humans. Human
Right.
is all, we're all energy. So if you
Mhm.
can have that orgasm just by breathing in or thinking about it and have that energy just flowing down to your yoni or
Mhm.
wherever, then it's a different flow.
Right.
But again, it comes from your mind. You won't be able to have that kind of orgasm anywhere if you have a cluttered mind. You have to be in the moment. And when I say be in the moment, you have to be present. You have to be right here. Nothing
Right.
else exists.
Right.
About if nothing else exists, if you're by yourself doing a solo, nothing exists but me right here, right now, and me
Right.
pleasuring myself.
Right.
Or if you have a partner, it's just me and my partner. We're not thinking about what Joe did last night or when Joe was married, what he was doing. You know,
Right.
I'm not about the bills, not about anything else. It's me and Joe right at this moment. Joe is touching my ankle, then I'm
Right.
feeling his energy.
Right.
But we have to be present in everything that we do when it comes to the bedroom.
No, this makes sense. And so what I'm gathering from this is, not only will a clear mind help you in other facets of your life, work, and other stuff like that, but it also help you out in the bedroom as well.
Everywhere in your life.
Right? Because what you're describing, this energetic orgasm, it's spiritual. It's long lasting. Where, and this makes sense to me. This is why when people try to get over certain things and they look for a quick fix, in the moment it might satisfy a certain need, but afterwards it's a huge drop off. It's a letdown.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. Oh,
Exactly.
this is all clicking. It's all making sense. So let's go on to the next question here. So in this day and age, it seems as if everyone wants to coach or do some sort of coaching. So, with that in mind, what would you say are some of the common misconceptions or mistakes expiring or new coaches make, coming into this business or just coaching in general?
Asking the wrong question the first time they meet a client, not getting to
Mm.
know the client. I've had that. I've had a couple clients come to me, and one said, listen, she went to coaching, and the first thing she asked her, what was your childhood like? And she's like, what? She said, Donna, I got up and I left.
Wow.
We have to
Yeah.
be very strategic when we're getting to know our clients. We have to get our clients to start talking first and
Right.
foremost, and see where the conversation is. And I'm going to tell you, coaching is a head game. You have to
Mm.
be very strong. It's just like a doctor,
Right.
or no, let me say a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist and another psychiatrist to unload.
Right.
Coaching
Right.
does the same thing. We have to have another outlet that we can unload to, because as I said earlier on, we can also
Yeah.
get heavy by having this other conversation with your clients.
Hmm.
So are you strong enough to hold it? I mean, if you're good and you're a people person and you want to help, go right ahead. I'm just
Hmm.
realizing now that people out there are coaching and you don't even need a certificate. And I'm thinking, shit, and I spend so much money on mine. You know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
crazy thing about it is I've been coaching for many years with my Savage Desires business, the toy business, and talking about sexuality and
Yeah.
all of that. But I didn't correlate that
Hmm.
until, because in my head I'm thinking, okay, you need your papers, you need your certificate to be
Right.
your coach. But I've been doing it for many, many years. Just getting the certificate is just like a closure for me.
Right.
But
Right.
but when people, any new coach that comes on, they have to realize that it's hard work,
Right.
because you can get emotionally invested in it if you don't have an outlet to unplug.
Right. No,
Hmm.
and that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioning the fact that you were already doing the work even before you had the certificate, right? And I think there's a few people that fit into that category. They might be that friend that people always come
Hmm.
to for advice and
Hmm.
closure and to
Hmm.
gain peace of mind. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And then the way you said you view you guys as like a psychiatrist, but for me, I see coaches, good ones anyways, almost like FBI
Investigative.
interrogation, yeah, agents. When
True.
they
We're
give you a cup of
asking,
water. Do you want a
listen,
cigarette? Do you want to
and
smoke?
dig
Make you
deep.
and comfortable.
Yeah, we dig deep.
Yeah, and
And
so
yeah, and you have to have a good listening ear.
yeah.
And you have to be, and just like in the bedroom, you have to be present.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
anytime you fall off, you may miss something so important, Corey,
Right.
for that our client is saying, because we fall off.
Right.
And this is where I'm not sure. I'm also an author. I wrote a book,
Yeah.
and so even in the book we talked about, we have to be present in everything that we do,
Right.
because the minute you blink and think about, oh my gosh, what
Hmm.
happened, we're going to lose so much very important information that your client had said because we
Right.
weren't there. We have to be present in everything that we do.
Right. And so going back to some of the challenges that some of your clients have mentioned,
Hmm.
what are some of you mentioned being present, right? And
Hmm.
so that's like a solution. So how does one get present? Like what are some steps or habits uh, that can help a person to get present or just to tackle some of the common challenges that you come across
Step
from your
away and
clients?
breathe. Just
Step.
step away and
Mm.
take deep breaths. Because when we're not present, we know our minds is racing and going somewhere else.
Right.
For instance, you and I are going to have a conversation. I said, Corey, stop for a second. Let me
Hmm.
just take my breath and
Right.
come back. But
Hmm.
some people may not want to disrupt the whole flow of conversation. For
Right.
me too, even with, let's say a husband and wife is having a conversation, it's getting heated.
Right.
One person have to be the bigger person to say, you know what, let's stop for a second,
Hmm.
walk away, take some deep breath and come back. People don't realize the importance of breath, or the importance of just deep breathing.
Right.
It is so important and relevant right now in today's world, because a lot of persons don't even know how to breathe properly.
Right.
You remember, even as kids, remember we're hyperventilating, what would they say? Get a paper bag and in the bag
Yeah.
and breathe
Yeah. Yeah.
so we can
Yeah.
calm down.
Yeah.
Even when people are overthinking, they're way ahead and they need
Yeah.
to bring back themselves, take some deep breath and be present.
Hmm.
Breath is so important.
No, and I definitely can see that. Even learning how to breathe is something that you brought up because a couple years ago I had torn my Achilles and I couldn't work out. So I picked up swimming at the YMCA and learning how to breathe underwater and things like that really taught me how to just breathe in life. And I even
Hmm.
think in a low key sort of interesting way, COVID has retaught everyone how to breathe properly through our nose because with the mask on, it's a little bit different and a little bit more difficult. So trying to breathe through your nose or starting to do that as well. So I definitely hear you on the breathing thing.
So when I said about breathing core, it's not necessarily even nose. We're talking about diaphragm breathing. We're talking
oh,
deep core. Breathing through
deep.
your nose
Okay.
is what people are doing now.
Yeah.
Me breathing through my nose is, I'm
Mhm.
talking deep
From the
core. That
diaphragm.
I talk about some diaphragm breathing. And this is
Mm,
what people have forgotten to do.
the
Because
simple
remember,
things.
yeah, the simple thing, but the thing about it is,
Hmm.
person, when we think about sometimes memories, we talk about
Hmm.
memories, and we're people, oh, memories is in your head.
Hmm.
It's in your aura. And what your
Hmm.
aura is in your stomach. So
Okay.
these it is just like intuition. When you feel an intuition or something is wrong, where do you feel it? You
Right.
feel it in your stomach,
In your gut. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
your gut, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm talking about deep, even sensuality, even bringing on an orgasm, breathing through
Breathe
your
in.
gut.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
Right. Okay. Okay. Back to basics, y'all. And it's funny because that also reminds me of something I heard in the moment of frustration or in the height of being angry. They said, I don't know what the exact amount of minutes, but if they say if you just learn or teach yourself not to respond in the moment and just walk away for 5 minutes, how
Come
you respond will be drastically different than how you would have
true.
responded
Right
in that
away.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hear you on the taking some time and taking that deep breath and coming back to that. Okay. Last question. Last question before the real last questions. Throughout your amazing career so far, what has been the best lesson you have learned from failing thus far?
Patience.
Mm, patience.
Patience.
Elaborate.
Patience.
Obviously, we know what patience means, but
Uh,
give me an example of where that was very useful or instrumental to you.
I've been doing this business, Corey, for 15 years, but I believe in it so much. And I failed many, 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 many times. And I believed it in so much. And I would always run ahead and trying to figure out, because I'm very creative. My girlfriend said, one of the things that I've created, I should have put a patent on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I would be always running ahead without finishing certain things. And then I have to
Mhm,
come back again. Then I'd get something in my head and I'd run and then I have to come back again.
mhm,
And so when I say patience is because I love this realm of my
mhm.
business.
Right,
I had to be patiently a baby in it and
right.
understanding and getting to know what my end results is and fall
Mhm,
in love with it and come up with different creative things versus coming off of the train track and going to
mhm.
start something else. And that's what I mean, patience. So you have to come up because I didn't realize how much I love this business. And it's not even about sex, it's about empowering
Mhm,
with the collective and understanding orgasms and I had to go back to come forward
mhm,
to learn and just be patient and loving to myself to see
mm.
where this is going and to see, okay, Donna, it's okay. We're not going to try this today. We're not going to make no oils today. We're not going to be, coming up with something else. We're going to stay right here
Right,
and be loving and patient and see this baby flow the way I wanted to do. I wanted to
right,
flow. And it's flowing the way I wanted to flow because I was patient with myself
right,
and focus on myself. People talk about procrastination all the time, but it's not even procrastination. It's about focusing.
right, right. No, and I hear you because
Hmm.
I have a piece on failure right now that's circulating on LinkedIn, and one of the hacks to failure that I mentioned is both focus and both. I didn't call it patience, but I called it time in, having like a marathon mindset. And
Hmm.
focus to me is I feel like especially in today's age where there's a lot of access to do a lot of things, so you have a lot of distractions, so narrowing your focus down to one or two, maybe three
Hmm.
things is one hack someone can do. And then in terms of patience, a good friend of mine, he shared a quote, I think it was from Bill Gates, and he said most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 3 to 5. So again, comparing this to social media, you might see someone having immediate success and you're thinking, how come my business hasn't taken off in 6 months?
Hmm.
Well, you're kind of overestimating from that sense if you're using 6 months as a benchmark, right? So having that patience, taking the time to learn the different aspects of your business, altogether just having that long-term mindset, I think is so key. And then if you evaluate it from that lens, then you realize you're not actually failing. You're not
No,
actually doing bad,
not yeah. But
right?
society make you feel like you're failing though.
Right.
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 And so the minute I stop looking and comparing myself to others and then being quiet and being my lane is when I realize, no, I'm not failing. I have
Yeah.
lots to celebrate. So,
Absolutely.
the persons that's doing business or anybody that's doing business have to realize that as well.
Absolutely. All
Hmm.
right. Now we're going to get into rapid fire questions. This
Oh
is
dear.
Donna. This is when I ask you 3 questions, and you just got to say the first thing that comes to your mind, the first
Okay.
answer that comes to
All
your
right.
mind.
All right. Let's do
Okay.
this.
All right. First one is, in your opinion, what is the number one reason relationships fail?
Um, Communication and comprehending the communication.
Okay. Number 2, what's one thing couples can do to keep the intimacy going or alive?
Get out of the bedroom.
Mm,
Play with
okay.
different areas. Yep.
Okay. I love it. Question number 3, the last one. What is one thing we can do to develop our sexual energy?
But rapid fire breath, breathing into orgasm, getting to understand your body and what pleases you, man and woman, man
Love
and
it.
woman.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So much we can learn here, guys. So Donna, for the people that are interested in inquiring about your classes, your sessions, becoming one of your clients, how can they find you? How can they reach you?
Okay, so I have a website. It's called iamdonnasavage.com. If you need to reach out to me, there's my Calendly, you can book an appointment. I'm on Instagram as Savage Desires DS and Facebook, Donna Savage. It's open. Or if you want to send me a friend request, I think it's full now, but just in case, you can send me a Facebook request. And on LinkedIn as well, Donna Savage.
There you go. I have one other question. Do Jamaicans get a discount?
You can be my friend. That's a discount.
I'm just teasing. I'm
I
just
know you
teasing.
are. I know you are.
I'm just
Mr.
teasing.
Trinidadian, anyways.
Well, actually, I am Jamaican. I'm just saying
Oh.
I didn't want to assume, because if I
Mm,
was wrong, then I know how
mhm.
some people can get offended by
Not
that.
offended at all.
But yes. Well, guys, that concludes today's episode. And as I always like to end with, if you want to just impress people, talk about your wins, your successes, the things you've gained, yada, yada, yada. But if you really want to have an impact on someone else's life, talk about your failures, more specifically, the lessons that you learned from those experiences and how they made you a better person. That's how you really move the needle in someone else's life. So with that being said, Donna Savage and I are out. Peace and love until the next time.